Well, big changes at Reform UK. Richard Tice, who is of course the deputy leader, has been named their business, trade and energy spokesman. Robert Jenrick, their spokesman on the economy, would be the Chancellor of the Exchequer if Reform UK came to power. Yusuf would be Home Secretary and Suella Braverman would be Education, Skills and Equalities, although the party says they would get rid of the Equalities Department on day one and scrap the Equalities Minister and the Equalities Act. One of those people we're going to talk to now, Richard Tice, the business, trade and energy spokesman. Richard, you're very welcome to the programme and congratulations on your new role.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Peter and everybody. Yes, another busy, important day for Reform. We're all delighted to have those confirmations as we progress and head towards the May elections. And there's a lot going on. Robert Jenrick is giving a speech tomorrow in the City. I'll be giving a big speech in a week's time in the Midlands, setting out key areas of what we plan to cover and the direction of travel.
We have had a lot of reaction to these changes. I have a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions from lots of our viewers and listeners, but I actually just want to play you a voice note from Matt, who had some thoughts on this earlier on. This is what Matt said.
Afternoon, Pete. It's Matt in Hove here. I just want to make a quick note about Robert Jenrick being Shadow Chancellor. I wonder are Reform opening themselves up to ridicule because he's been nowhere near financial services. He's got no background at all. Now, they spent most of last year having a go at Reeves for not working in financial services long enough, right? But he's been nowhere near it. It is a little bit laughable.
That is Matt who got in touch with us. Richard, you clearly have a business background. You have been a very successful businessman. You know all about trade, you know all about business, you know all about energy. There is no doubt about that, Richard. But Matt asking about Robert Jenrick, who would be the Chancellor if Reform UK came to government. Wouldn't someone else perhaps have been better at it? Maybe even Richard Tice?
Well, what Matt may not be familiar with is that Robert actually was he was a Treasury
Minister.
Secretary.
Yeah.
That's right. So has actually got some experience within the Treasury and experience of government. And all of those things are an important blend. And Robert's also got experience in the private sector. So we bring a range of different talents. And hopefully what we're trying to do is make 2 + 2 = 4 and a bit. And in a sense, we're damned if we do whatever, because we get criticised for not having enough experience in government. We bring in some experience and then we get criticised again. But the key thing is that we work closely together and we coordinate, we strategise, and we come up with the best, in a sense, not only the best policies, but also the conviction and the belief to actually get them done. And that's why we've got working groups across a whole raft of different areas. This 2026 year, Peter, is a year of working groups, hard graft, policy, so that by the end of the year, we're sort of ready to put that into draft legislation so that we're ready on the basis there might be an election back end of 2027.
Sure, you want to be ready to go. With the idea of you perhaps running a sort of super department, business, trade and energy, I mean, that's 3 different departments at the moment. In fact, if you put in housing, that's actually a 4th department, or part of a 4th department. Is that not too big? I mean, Angela Rayner famously said she was John Prescott in a skirt. I mean, are you Angela Rayner not in a skirt?
You won't find me in a skirt, Peter. Your listeners will be pleased to hear. But there's another saying in life, which is, if you want something doing, give it to a busy person. And actually these roles, they're all intertwined. You know, I've got a lot of experience in housing, planning, that leads into infrastructure. That's a key part of growth, prosperity, a key part of business, deregulating, smart regulation. We ought to be smart and safe in what we do. What we don't want is daft, dither and delay. And I think that I'll be bringing together a team of very experienced business people, and we will get a whole plan of action in place, including, of course, you can't be a rich nation without cheap energy, which is why that dovetails in so well. And this time next week, I will be setting out my thoughts on a large new British sovereign wealth fund.
Well, actually, on that exact point, sorry to interrupt you, Richard, but on that exact point, Cliff in Berkshire, who's a member of your party, said, please ask Richard Tice about the proposed sovereign wealth fund, which I understand part of his brief. How will it be funded given our current national debt? Will the national debt have to be cleared first? What will the proposed fund be used for? For example, future pensions or infrastructure. What would you say to Cliff?
Listen to my speech at, I think it'll be 11 o'clock next Tuesday, and all will be revealed. So
okay.
That's an exciting week for him to look forward to. Obviously, we've got a plan, and I think that it will be, well, I know it's significant, and I think it'll pleasantly surprise a lot of your listeners and viewers. And it's all about having a clear plan that can help drive growth, prosperity, making people better off. And let's not forget, anybody under the age of 40 to 45 doesn't know what it feels like to be in an economy that's growing at between 2.5% and 4% every year, year in, year out. It's a good feeling. Okay. I want people to get that feeling, and that's what we're very focused on.
Well, perhaps we can talk further when you've talked about that sovereign wealth fund. What was notable today, certainly, we've talked about Suella Braverman, Yusuf, Robert Jenrick and yourself. You didn't announce all of the rules. People are asking why David Bull hasn't been named as health spokesman, for example. You haven't talked about foreign affairs. You haven't talked about defence, for example. Is that just coming? Is that just down the line?
Yes, of course. In a sense, this is just the first phase of a multiple series of announcements over time. And look, patience is a virtue. We don't need to rush everything. But just because someone hasn't been announced doesn't mean there isn't a lot of thinking,
sure,
policy ideas going on behind the scenes. And I know, look, in a sense, we're all impatient. That's the nature of us. But this is a year of diligence, hard work, getting stuff ready. And we're not also claiming that in any way we're all perfect. It's what we're trying to do is really hard. It's never been done before.
Do you
when you're moving at great speed, of course, we'll make some mistakes. We'll say the wrong thing at the wrong moment. That's just the nature of life. And your good folk will, you'll scrutinise and hold us to account on that. But I just think we have to prove ourselves to be much, much better than our opposition. And if we continue to do that, we'll continue to lead in the polls. We'll smash it at the May the 7th.
Well, I want to talk about that in a second, but I just want to tell you of two things, not necessarily ask you questions about, but I just want to tell you that Matt was in touch from Cheshire, and he says your event should be further north. They shouldn't all be in the south of the southeast. I know
that's right. That's my event next Tuesday will be in the West Midlands.
Okay, great. And similarly, well, I'll perhaps tell you about that other one at the end. But on talking about May the 7th, as you know, Richard, I'm politically homeless. I'm not a member of any political party. I'm not certainly a shill for any political party. But what I want to say is, were it not for Reform UK, those elections would have been cancelled on the 7th of May. That would have been a complete disgrace and a denial of democracy. Just tell us how that all worked behind the scenes. There was going to be a High Court case on Thursday and the government capitulated. They're now bizarrely blaming Nigel Farage for that. What's your take on all of that?
I think everybody should be thanking Nigel and Reform for the fact that almost 5 million people will now have the right to vote on May the 7th. I think about 1.5 million or so we're going to have their vote declined, prevented for a second year running, despite the government's promises. Look, we've frankly, we found them out, we've caught them out, and they realised they were going to lose in court. And so, look, at the end of the day, they have done the right thing, finally, almost on the court steps, so to speak. And it's thanks to Nigel and Reform that we've enabled these elections to go ahead. And it's really, really significant. And hopefully voters will remember that as they go to the ballot box and vote Reform.
One other name or party, two other parties actually, on the ballot paper may well be Advance UK and Restore Britain. Now, Rupert Lowe, former MP in Reform UK, has set up Restore Britain. Are you worried about those two parties as a threat? And similarly, why can't you just get it together? I mean, you're talking not exactly the same language, but a lot of the things that you believe are the same as Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib.
Well, competition's a good thing. We've never been afraid of it. And that's the joy of democracy. Those two individuals set up their own entities, and they will push forwards as they can. It's really, really hard. Whoever does it. Let's wait and see. But we're leading in all the national polls. We're very confident of the people we've got on board. We're raising good money, which is essential to fight elections. And let's see where we get to on May the 8th. But I can assure people it is incredibly hard to do what we're doing, which is why basically no one's ever done it before.
I want to ask you actually just about your energy brief now, because we've had Donald Trump attacking Ed Miliband for having at least a memorandum of understanding with the California Governor Gavin Newsom, or as Donald Trump nicknames him, Gavin Newscum. Should we be signing memorandums of understanding with states rather than countries?
Well, isn't it interesting that Ed Miliband signed that memorandum with the woke Gavin Newsom, and has disclosed that memorandum for public information, but he won't disclose the memorandum that he signed with China last year, despite multiple attempts. What's he got to hide? Why is he lacking in transparency? What are the links between the Chinese communist regime and this Labour government and the Labour Party? What we need is cheap, plentiful, reliable energy. We've got all this energy treasure under our feet, offshore, onshore. And as far as I'm concerned, in my role, every last barrel, every last drop is what we should be trying to seek, because it's literally treasure, and the jobs it creates, the wealth, the prosperity, the multiplier effect across the whole economy, the ability to reduce bills, reduce the cost of living increases, make businesses and industries competitive again. Those are all fantastic things. It's literally why we grew between 2.5% and 4% most years in the 80s and 90s, because we had cheap energy.
Just before you go, Richard, there's a big story, continuing story of the absolute scourge of anti-Semitism in this country. We've seen Matt Lucas, for example, the performer who's been heckled and pressed for his views in the Middle East, which he hasn't really expressed to any great extent at all. He was targeted because he was Jewish. We know that there are Green Party politicians, including Carla Denyer, I've asked her on this programme a number of times, who say that you should spare an hour to knock the door to try to get people to boycott Israeli goods. That has been called a Jew hunt. If you were in government, if Reform UK were the government of this country, what would they do about that?
Well, there's no one who has stood up more against the scourge of anti-Semitism, frankly, than myself, Nigel, and Reform, and we have to eradicate it. And it's an absolute, it's an appalling stain on this government. It's a stain on the leadership of the Metropolitan Police and other forces, such as the West Midlands Force, because they created a vacuum, and in a vacuum, that if you create a vacuum, bad people fill it. And these hate marches, that's what these pro-Palestine marches are. They're hate-filled, they incite violence, they're anti-Semitic, and as such, they break the law, and as such, they should have been prevented from continuing. We all want lawful, legal protest, of course. That's the joy of democracy. But what people can't do is step over the line, and that's why very, very early after October the 7th, 2023, I called for those marches to be banned for those reasons.
On a slightly lighter note, we've had a message from Israel, in fact, from Nat, who says that if it doesn't work out with your fiancé, Richard, other options are available, and she's given her telephone number for that too. I'm sure you won't be going down that road, and all as well. But Richard, listen, thank you very much. That is Richard Tice there, who's not just the Deputy Leader of Reform UK, he's also their business, trade and energy spokesman from today. What do you think about what he said? Let me know. 0344 499 1000. We'll take your calls, text, tweets and voice notes, and we'll go up right up to 4 o'clock. We'll also have a quick chat with Kevin O'Sullivan about what's coming up on his programme on Talk Drive between 4 and 7. Stay with us here on Talk.